For keeping it at TV47. My name is Linda Alela, and it's 34 days to the general election. The four presidential candidates have already presented their intent for the people with documents in form of manifestos. And the fourth and very last one, Migori Woman of Agano party launched that is Monday, and mainly focused on socials of society. One would want to argue that perhaps it resonates with what it is that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga presented. As they say, theirs is more of a social aspect than that one of Deputy President William Ruto and Wajakoya, which is hugely about the question of, popularity and populist or populism. And so, meanwhile, Kenyans continue to unload that which has been presented to them by the four, largely speak of economic revival and are presented, of course, with various routes as to how they get to address this. And so that is what we'll be trying to unpack this morning, as well as we understand the bids of different individuals that we'll be having on set. Very good conversation that is largely about those ones that have held offices in Parliament, but at the same time are there to probably, one has decided to probably stop, his bid on matters politics. He says he takes that aspect of retirement, that is Honorable Sankok, but the others would wish to proceed to bigger positions, that is the gubernatorial positions, and therefore keep it right here. I'll be introducing them in a bit as well. We'll be talking about so much so the question of health, and that is your eye. We want to understand just how best you can take care of yourself and prevent yourself from having difficulties that could be triggered by UV rays. That is on a conversation that we'll be having later on alongside individuals from Lapea Glasses. And away from it, we'll also be reminiscing on the importance of cooperatives, as we remember that Saturday was a great day, that is International Cooperatives Days, as people get to understand how important it is to make sure that they take these angles of cooperatives to save for the future. And so we'll be having a specialist that will take us through that conversation as we get to understand the importance of this and why is it that in this time and age it is hugely being embraced in the country and across the global fraternity. Welcome on board. My name is Linda Alela. So much lined up for you. It's an honor to always do this with you as we look forward to greatness, and we welcome you to be part and parcel of the conversation. The hashtag, as always, is Morning Café at Linda_Alela TV47 KE, and the broadcast begins right away. And we start off by looking at what the papers detail this morning. We have the Standard newspaper, the People Daily, as well as the Daily Nation. This is the Standard newspaper. Right here, we take a look at the big stories that have been captured on the front page, and later on to expound them further with the guests that I'll be having on set. And IBC is not our job to verify Sakaja's degree. That is what the IBC says. It maintains what it started by saying even before this Sakaja saga was out. It said that they are not mandated by all means to figure out who is supposed to be cleared, and therefore they leave it for the courts and the justice system to make sure that, they either plea or they either say that an individual is guilty or not, and therefore if not charged in court, it is not in their capacity to stop these individuals from vying. And of course, looking at the aspect of the constitution where it dictates that one is then innocent until they are proven guilty, and therefore IBC says they do not want to play huge on this question of Sakaja, as well as we also take a look at what the courts declared yesterday, telling or stopping the IBC from printing ballot papers for the Mombasa gubernatorial position until Sonko's case is heard to the later. A new twist in Sonko's bid to lead Mombasa. His quest to be governor remains unclear. That is after Wiper named Ali Mbogo. That is a story captured on page 5, and he is supposed to deputize Ali. A twist that it will be interesting to watch as we wait to see how then the Wiper party will be able to manage this, as well as the IBC. In these cases that continue to bedevil Sonko as to questions whether he should proceed and be governor in a different county, having been impeached in the county that he was leading previously. And we also take a look at this story that has been captured right here on the front page. As we say, it's 34 days to the general election, and Karua's big impact, whether it has been indeed a big impact, a popularity aspect. A new survey commissioned by the Standard newspaper shows that that Azimio running mate Martha Karua is trusted in most of the regions to win the votes for Right Honorable Raila Odinga than UDA's Rigathi Gachagua will garner for Deputy President William Ruto. This is captured on page 6, and we see Martha Karua taking our position, taking 49%, while Rigathi Gachagua has 20%, and the rest pretty do not know what they would say about this matter. And therefore, we get to understand the politics of deputy presidents, the politics of running mates, just how instrumental they are. If you would remind ourselves of what it is Deputy President William Ruto prides in, he says it is his effort that really got President Uhuru Kenyatta at the top of the helm. While many would argue that President Uhuru Kenyatta came with 60%, the Deputy President topped up 20%, he would argue otherwise amidst all this conversation that has been there as to that audio that leaked, speaking of Deputy President William Ruto, saying that at some point in time after the nullification of the 2017 general election, he was trying to push President Uhuru Kenyatta to remain steady while the president was almost losing it, and him declaring that were it not for the aspect of respect, then he felt like he was almost going to slap the president. The issue ranks high among things Kenyans want for leaders to prioritize. Others are education and lack of jobs, whereas corruption and debt burden worry few voters. This is according to voters and what it is that they want, to see the new presidential candidates, or better yet, the person who's going to get it right after President Uhuru Kenyatta, what they would wish for him to proceed and, deal with for the people of Kenya. That is hugely on the question of cost of living. And I say him because we all know the 4 presidential candidates are all male. And so we'll be looking at that. The cost of living is one thing that does not exit from our mouths. We have to discuss this perhaps up to the last day where Kenyans then will proceed to vote, and we seek to see whether the next president indeed will manage to handle the question of the high cost of living, looking at the difficulties that the Jubilee government then will be leaving behind. And the Daily Nation, let's speak what the Daily Nation speaks of this morning. Meanwhile, as it loads the front page of it, on the hard copy, here we are, good enough. Okay. Yes, here we are. Let's see how it goes. Okay, it's taking us to the next page, but not a problem. I made you president. Ruto turns Uhuru. A visibly angry Deputy President William Ruto confronts President Uhuru Kenyatta, accusing the president of forgetting the far that they have come together, the battles that they have fought, looking at the ICC troubles that bedeviled them as they were getting into power, as well as the difficulties that came along after the nullification of the presidential election, that is in 2017. Deputy President William Ruto seeks to remind his boss that indeed it was a battle that they put up together, and therefore President Uhuru Kenyatta then should proceed to respect the same. This is what has been captured as you can see on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. And yes, this in the latest feud that has been witnessed between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputies that exposes the intrigues and the feud that has existed therein between these two individuals. Many have questioned as to why President Uhuru Kenyatta failed to support Deputy President William Ruto's presidential bid, having promised the kumi yake and kumi yangu, as they would say. But then again, President Uhuru Kenyatta went against his words to endorse Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and many have been questioning what really could have informed this sudden, about turn by President Uhuru Kenyatta. As people continue to weigh in on this, the Deputy President claims he did not, or he did most of the campaigns that is in 2017 and as well 2013. Away from it, polls battle of the IT gurus, and this is the story that has been captured on the front page but expounded largely on page 7 of the Daily Nation, and we get to see what exactly it is about. They say say Azimio flag bearer Right Honorable Raila Odinga, as well as his Kenya Kwanza counterpart, that is William Ruto, are banking on information technology experts to safeguard their votes. That is with Davis Chichir, right, and the chief Jubilee Party agent who also represented President Uhuru Kenyatta at the National Tallying Center in the 2017 elections, leading Ruto's wing, while George Joroge, and that is the chief executive officer and managing director of the East African Data Handlers, leading the Odinga camp. This is captured right there. We get to see how instrumental these individuals would be in terms of making sure that it's a successful bid for either of them that will carry the day. And as they would rightfully put it, the IEBC declared that it would let it open for, these parties, interested parties across, including the media, to have, parallel tallying places, or better yet, to tally along with the IEBC in terms of getting to understand who then will carry the day and making sure that, yes, they secure the numbers, a fair process according to them. But others have argued if it is not well orchestrated, then it could be recipe for disaster. That also is one of the big stories actually that has been captured, the main one on the front page of the Daily Nation. And briefly on this other side, and still on matters politics, Migori, vowing to fight corruption, launches his manifesto. That is Monday. Agano party leader says only he can actually proceed to deliver the country from the clutches of corruption in his 12-pillar pledge of Kenyans story, or for Kenyans, a story that has been captured on page 10, and we'll be trying to unpack that as we also look at the manifestos of the other three that presented theirs slightly earlier than Wahiga Mwaure. And that is what we'll be looking at this morning as we are ready for junior high private schools. This is according to the question of education that has been captured on the back page of the Daily Nation. Rules to guide running of junior high schools is ready. There will be a double intake for standard 8, this CBC class in January, as we are trying to see that we are successful on this aspect of piloting, but most importantly, get into it, as the Ministry of Education then would say that we really are not going to relent despite the difficulties. Rules have been developed to give direction on the transition and implementation of the competency-based curriculum. That is also one story that has been captured. Also this one of Mike Sonko, court hands Sonko a lifeline in Mombasa governor race, as in directing the IBC not to gazette the names of governor candidates. Court gives Mike Mbuvi a legal breath. And so we seek to see what it will play out, what it will present to the governor, or the former governor of Nairobi, and most importantly to the people of Mombasa County. And so these are the key stories that we'll be looking at. And so hold it right here as I'll be engaging the guests that we'll have, alongside me to take a look at this, extensively or on a comprehensive manner. Let's shelve what is happening with the roads, because there's really nothing much that is playing out, in as much as, we woke up to a sad morning, having received these reports from what played out somewhere around Mlolongo, and that is on the expressway. Let's shelve what is happening right here, because there's really nothing to look at, and take a look at this one that is the very one that starts the recap of news for us. And more than about 20 people have sustained injuries following a road accident at the Nairobi Expressway, Mlolongo Station. And the accident involved an Embasava Sacco bus, which is said to have rammed into a Prado TX at the Mlolongo exit, causing damage. The expressway toll station, and according to eyewitnesses, the bus was speeding on the expressway before it rammed into the car, whose driver was being cleared at the expressway's Mlolongo exit. Police have secured the area as rescue operations continue, with 4 ambulances rushing, the injured persons to hospitals, that is including Kenyatta National Hospital, Machakos Level 5, and Shalom Community Hospital. Now, away from that to politics, Agano Party presidential candidate David Wahiga became the fourth and final presidential candidate to launch his manifesto Monday ahead of the August 9 general election. In his manifesto, the Agano Party leader said his manifesto is radical and unique as it proposes to waive all tax penalties accrued as soon as he's sworn in to give Kenyans a new start. As Micah Gungo reports, the presidential hopeful is seeking financial help from Kenyans to enable him conduct campaigns ahead of the August 9 polls.
Agano Party presidential candidate David Wahiga launched his manifesto on Monday.
Officially launched. It will be serialized.
Detailing the plans he has for the country should he be elected the 5th president come August 9th.
10 years down the line, we would want to be remembered as the presidency that slayed the dragon of corruption, wastage, mismanagement, and the woofing from the word woof we have found in this nation for the last 59 years.
Dubbed Badilisha, Agano's manifesto makes the proposition of starting from a clean slate and is anchored on 12 Agano's pledges. The stipulated Agano's pledges include Agano to the Constitution, the family, women, youth, persons with disability, county governments, workers, business owners, the economy, religious institutions, the environment, as well as Agano to the international community. Should he and his running mate Ruth Mutua ascend to power in August this year, David More has pledged to increase revenue allocation to counties to 40%. Designate 10% of the 40% to go directly to the village councils.
Well, we'll bring everything that is, but already we have money. Anybody telling you that we need to plant maize, to pay whatever, to pay Chinese loan, it's a lie, a white one.
Wahiga pledged to constitute a Truth and Recovery Commission that will help bring back to Kenya 20 trillion shillings allegedly obtained and trashed by powerful individuals.
We shall institute what we are calling a Truth and Recovery of Stolen Money Commission, which will expose and name and shame. Also, any money illegally stashed abroad, return our money back.
He promised to ensure that at no point maize flour will go beyond 100 shillings by introducing unga subsidy. If elected to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta, the Agano Party chairman said his government will waive tax accrued from the date he is sworn in order to give Kenyans a new start. He also pledged to reduce payee for all employees and added that his administration will bring to an end the loss of 5 billion shillings daily through theft in various government departments and agencies.
Actually, in our opening speech, we shall officially reduce the payee that's paid by Kenyans by 50% to enable Kenyans have some money with themselves.
His running mate Ruth Mutua called on any Kenyan who believed in the party's cause to make contributions to fund them as they embark on their national presidential campaigns.
Our USSD code is *486 *777# and donate any amount to support our cause.
David Wahiga More now becomes the final presidential candidate to present his blueprint for the country. Kenya Kwanza's William Ruto and Roots Party's George Wajakoya launched theirs last week. Raila Amolo Odinga of Azimio la Umoja launched his manifesto earlier last month. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Now, the High Court has suspended the gazettement of the Mombasa gubernatorial candidates in the August elections pending the hearing and determination of a suit filed by Mike Sonko. The three-judge bench also halted the ballot paper printing by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. The Wiper Party was also prevented from nominating another candidate to replace Sonko in the race. Sonko is currently seeking to overturn IEBC Dispute Resolution Committee's decision to bar him from vying for the seat. The Mombasa gubernatorial aspirant Mike Sonko has lauded the judiciary, adding that he is determined to follow the law and respect the constitution.
kuja hapa. Tumefurahia vile kesi. Lazima umalize ile kesi kwa mahakama zote za juu. Kitu cha kwanza, Mungu atusaidie. Nashukuru kwanza mahakama sahihi wamesema hakuna printing of ballot papers, hakuna kugazeti majina ya candidates kwanza mpaka kesi yangu appeal nimefanya against IBC tribunal iishe. We appreciate and we thank the judiciary in a very big way. Yeah. We shall follow the law, we shall respect our constitution. Now we have got a lot of confidence in the judiciary.
Meanwhile, Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja will know his fate Friday in the ongoing case over his degree. And according to Sakaja, the petitioner seeking his disqualification from the Nairobi gubernatorial race over the validity of his academic papers is malicious on a political witch hunt spree. And the embattled legislature is in court papers filed in response to the case lodged by Dennis Goku Wahome argues that the case, which has dragged for weeks now, is engineered by unnamed powerful forces to publicly humiliate him. Sakaja has, however, dismissed claims that the Bachelor of Science in Management degree he claims he acquired from a Team University in Uganda that is fraudulent, saying the questions raised are based on malice. And NAK leader, that is Martha Karua, led the Azimio la Umoja coalition on a campaign tour of Narok County Monday. Politics of corruption played out as the Azimio running mate Martha Karua accused the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate, that is Deputy President William Ruto, for allegedly being involved in various corruption scandals.
Politics of corruption dominated the Azimio One Kenya rally held in Narok County Monday. Azimio's running mate Martha Karua, who led the team, accused Deputy President William Ruto for allegedly being involved in corruption scandals, further assuring Kenyans of a corruption-free country should Azimio take over in the August 9 polls.
Namuahidi tukiingia sisi ndio kiboko ya wafisadi wote. Na tukisema tutapambana na ufisadi, wacha kulia ukifikiria ni wewe tumetaja. Hakuna mama amebatiza mtoto wake mfisadi. Wewe ndio unachagua kuwa mfisadi. Ukiwa mfisadi, sheria ya Kenya itatumika kwako. Ikiwa ni mtoto wangu sawa sawa, ikiwa ni dada yangu, ikiwa ni mpisani, sheria ni moja sio mbili.
In an effort to hunt for votes, Karua vowed to address key issues bedeviling women, saying her experience in government would be her driving force when elected alongside his presidential candidate Raila Odinga.
Na safari hii kura ni kwa wale watakuwa waaminifu kwa wananchi. Huwezi ukajua kama mtu ni mwaminifu bila kuangalia vitendo yake na kuangalia matamshi yake. Ukiangalia Raila Amolo Odinga na uangalie mimi mgombea mwenza, utaona siku zetu tumekuwa tukipigania haki zenu.
Her sentiments were echoed by Narok North Member of Parliament Moitalel Ole Kenta, who is eyeing the governor's seat on an ODM ticket. Kenta urged Kenyans to vote in leaders who will fully represent their needs in government.
Tunafanya kazi na serikali ya mama Raila Odinga. Tumesikia mashida yenu. Mambo ya maji tumepanga kabisa na tukiingia tu tunaleta maji hapa.
And as the clock ticks towards the August general election, the Azimio coalition continues to rally different parts of the country, with the campaign team expected to tour Nyeri County Tuesday. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
All right, then Deputy President William Ruto has said he has no apologies to make on a leaked audio clip claiming he came close to slapping President Uhuru Kenyatta for giving up on his second-term quest in 2017. The Deputy President, who toured Meru County, defended his remarks, saying he stood by the President as a loyal and trusted friend to prevent his main challenger, the Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga, from taking over power. TV47's Apollo Kamau with that.
A tough-talking Deputy President William Ruto on the campaign trail in Meru County said he has no apologies to make on the leaked audio clip that he almost slapped President Uhuru Kenyatta, who was on the verge of giving up for his second-term presidential quest after nullification by the Supreme Court.
Hata hiyo vitu mnazungusha kwa maredio ati William Ruto ati sijui alisukuma Uhuru Kenyatta namna gani? Kwani mulikuwa mnataka Uhuru Kenyatta awache kiti ambayo sisi tulikuwa tumeamukia saa 11 kwenda kumpigia awe rais? Tuwaache nyinyi watu ya kuzimia? Wendeni kabisa.
The DP training his guns on the Azimio wing, which blasted him on Sunday as unsuitable to lead. But Ruto told his Mount Kenya support base that he was Uhuru's loyal and trusted friend until the handshake broke his dalliance with Uhuru.
Sasa mimi nataka niwaulize, nyinyi watu wa kuzimia, nyinyi hamujawahi kupigia Uhuru Kenyatta kura. Nyinyi hamjui tulimfanya Uhuru Kenyatta awe rais kwa njia gani. Mimi nataka nyinyi watu wa kuzimia, wacheni utapeli na unafiki. Saa hizi nyinyi watu wa kuzimia munajifanya ati nyinyi ni marafiki wa rais Uhuru Kenyatta.
Ruto further recalled how he campaigned for Kenyatta more than the president himself.
Na mimi hapa hasla, mimi ndio nilifanya campaign kubwa ya Uhuru Kenyatta. Ni kweli ama si kweli?
The president's allies in the Mount Kenya region warned the DP not to test Uhuru anymore, while Ruto's allies came to his defense.
Do not mistake our humbleness for lack of courage. Do not mistake our silence to think that we accept your threats. We do not.
I think the Deputy President is trying to say a fact because he cannot allow the President to say things that are not right. So I think the Deputy President deserves a right of reply.
Ruto and Uhuru have been at loggerheads since the handshake. The latest outburst this weekend rekindled a painful fallout exacerbated by Odinga's endorsement by Uhuru, betrayal of the succession promise, and a rocky Jubilee marriage in the second term. Apol Kamau, TV47.
Well, thank you so much, Apollo Kamau, for that story that as well forms the basis of our conversation. I know we've discussed it and very many people continue to discuss and unpack this as fingers are being pointed at Deputy President William Ruto, largely from the Azimio side. And well, whether that then would be the truth in terms of what it is that they interpret this statement to be or not is something that is here and out there. They say the jury is. And so we get into this conversation the matters of politics right here in the country. As earlier mentioned, we'll be looking at the manifestos and what it is that these gentlemen are presenting to the people of Kenya. But most importantly, just getting to understand whether the electorate understands, who is to be questioned in the event that these manifestos do not get to see the light of day. That is about the implementation of the same, whether they understand the importance of getting the right, members of parliament on board, because largely they are involved in making sure that some of these bills, some of these laws then sailed through to the level of the presidency for them to be ascended to law. And because most of these presidential candidates then are presenting, different and radical changes as to the system of governance that would help them, give us that economic emancipation, help us address the cost of living, help us address the question of corruption, help us address the social flaws that bedevil us, addressing the question of making sure that agriculture is back to the levels where it was, because then it's the main, driver of the economy and so much more. So as we get to unpack this, now that we have, manifestos from all the four, it is important that you are involved as well. The hashtag is Morning Café at Linda_Alela TV47KE. And in a bit, I get to introduce the guests that will be gracing the show this morning as we get to this very important conversation. As earlier mentioned, we'll be having individuals that have, taken or have held positions that is at the level of parliament, but then again, others, seek to exit the stage, while others say they want to step ahead, and that is at the level of the gubernatorial position. And so we have the women representative of Migori County that will be joining us shortly. Dr. Pamela Odhiambo will be joining us virtually, as well as Honorable David Sankok, nominated member of parliament, as well, will be joining us virtually. But in studio with me is Honorable Patrick Wainaina, commonly known as Wa Jungle, who's the governor candidate for Kiambu County, but then again, still representing the people of Thika Town, right?
Yeah.
It's an honor to have you, sir.
Thank you.
Asante sana for creating time. And we've been watching closely as to what is happening in Thika, but most importantly in Kiambu, one of the races that appears to be the toughest of them all, perhaps, tying with Nairobi. And we are keenly watching to see what the people of Kiambu then will have to say in terms of the next people that they want to take up the mantle. As you exit the stage from the Thika Town, that is constituency, do you suppose you've done justice to the people of Thika Town such that you would want to extend that to the level of the county?
Asante sana Rita, kwanza kabisa niwasalimie watazamaji, na sana sana niwashukuru wakaji wa Thika kunipatia kibali na kunipatia mamlaka ya kuingia bunge mara yangu ya kwanza, na sana kuingia katika ulimwengu wa siasa. Na niseme kweli tumefanya kazi na watu wa Thika, na wakaendelea wakanipatia baraka, wakasema nimemaliza kitendo cha 8 sasa. Wacha sasa niende kiwango ingine, sasa niingie form 1 nao nipambane huko form 4. Kwa hivyo wamesema nimepita kile kiwango cha primary, sasa niende hapo juu kidogo. Lakini tena niseme hizo baraka sasa kunipatia ili niendelee na ugavana pia, na washukuru sana. Kwa wakati huu nimesimama kiti cha ugavana Kiambu County, na nimesimama kama mgombea huru. Alama yangu ni helmet ya kijani, ama ukipenda helmet, green helmet. Imeandikwa Jango hapa mbele, na hapa chini imeandikwa hapa kazi tu. Na tena niseme ile support, ama vile nimeshikiliwa tena na watu wa Kiambu, tena nasema asante sana na ni shukrani. Kujibu swali lako kusema kama nimefanya justice kwa watu wa Thika, niseme hivi. Pale member of parliament, ukiwa mbunge, uko na budget yako, na uko na sana tuko na ile fund yetu ya CDF. Na CDF sana huangania about 100 million plus or minus. Kwa hiyo pesa ndipo tunatoa ile inaitwa bursary, tunatoa zile kodi, tunatoa taxes. Ile inabakia pale kama development budget ni 50 milioni. Na kwa hiyo pesa hapa Thika tumetumia sana kabisa, kwa sababu tumejenga mashule. In fact mashule yalikuwa kwa hali mbaya kabisa. Tumejenga mashule 56. In fact tumejenga shule zote. Kwa sababu saa 3 zile za mwisho ndizo zamalizikia saa hii. Tumejenga mashule, tumeweka barabara, tumefanya mataa za barabara, tumeweka maji, tumefanya economic empowerment, tumeweka border sheds, na hizi zingine Rita, kusema kweli hata sio haziko kwa ile orodha ya mbunge. Ni vile tu sasa ukiwa kiongozi watu wako wangetaka kuwa na border sheds, kwa sababu unajua hiyo ni area moja economic empowerment. Sana wale watu wa boda, wale watu wako chini sana. Na ukigojea wajijengee hawatafika ile kiwango. Kwa hivyo ni lazima ushughulike, utafute marafiki, utafute pesa, ili hawa watu wako wawe wanasonga. Unaona, sio ati ukae tu vile kwa sababu serikali haijatoa pesa uanze kulalamika kama mwananchi. Mwananchi alikuchagua ukiwa kiongozi kwa sababu anajua unaweza. Unaona,
so najua tutazidi kuendelea kwa hilo na ni shukrani kubwa kuwa na wewe asubuhi ya leo. Labda wengi wangependa kuuliza kiukweli, ukiangalia manifesto yake, manake ni wakati wa manifesto unaona kwamba ulifanikisha kufanya kile kitu ambacho ulikuwa umewaahidi watu wa Thika Town, lakini tutarejea kwa hilo. I think it's this very moment that we get the honors of introducing Honorable Ole Sankok, who's joining us virtually. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for creating time to be with us this morning. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say this, but now that you've been a frequent of Morning Café, we must admit that we had really missed you. How have you been? And one would want to say that you are politics and politics is you. What informs this sudden change of tone that you will be exiting politics?
Those rumors. I think I said that I'm not going for any elective seat, just like my brother and friend, Professor Kindiki, just like Sabina Chege, just like John Mbadi, the ODM chairman. And not going for an elective seat does not mean retiring from politics. And Linda, if you see me very well, at the age of 43, yet we have people at the age of 80 still in politics. Do I look like somebody who can exit politics?
Well, that's the reason why we wanted you to clear the air on that.
That statement was not true.
Out of context?
Linda, for us in UDA and Kenya Kwanza, we have had our manifesto, and our manifesto is a manifesto, and the only manifesto in Kenya that was a participatory manifesto. We started by having county economic charters in every county, where citizens were given an opportunity to say what they want to see in the manifesto. What are their specific needs from every county, 47 of them. And then again, we involve groups, especially the marginalized groups. We involve the communities, those minority. We involve persons with disabilities. We involve youth and women, and charters for women, youth, and persons with disability. But Linda, to be specific on that economic charter of persons with disability, we sat down with the deputy president. He's running it, Rigathi Gachagua, who is a very strong man whom we support so much, and others like Namdavadi, Professor Kidiki, and others. We sat down with leaders of persons with disability from across the country, from the 47 tribes.
And such has happened with the other parties, Honorable Sankok. It would be unfair for you to argue that it's only UDA, or better yet, Kenya Kwanza, that had a chance to proceed. And you largely speak of UDA. Where do you leave the rest that are under Kenya Kwanza?
The rest, I'm saying Kenya Kwanza.
Okay.
The Kenya Kwanza team had the manifesto that was participatory. When you talk about the others, I think they sat in the boardrooms and develop, use technocrats and develop a manifesto. But for us, this manifesto is the manifesto of Wanainchi. I was giving you an example of person with disability. When we sat down, we had several points. One of them is in the issue of manufacturing. We told Kenya Kwanza that there are 400,000 wheelchair users in this country. If you go to an approximation of each wheelchair costing 30,000, that means Kenyans are sitting on a metallic gadget worth 12 billion. So if we set up an industry, we'll set up an industry of manufacturing wheelchairs with a market of 400,000 users. And that is a market enough, and that is an industry or a manufacturing industry that we can set up in Kenya. If you add other assistive devices like crutches, calipers, hearing aids, and white canes, then we'll have a factory worth more than 100 billion for an investor, and a market that is bigger than Nairobi. Persons with disability in Kenya are 6.5 million. Nairobi is just 5 million residents. So you'll have a market that is actually worth and it's bigger. We also went to the issue of person with disability in terms of education. We said for a long time we have considered on special schools. No, we are moving from that narrative towards what we call integrated system of education, where then a child with disability, if we cannot access a classroom, then you put a ramp so that they can access because they are on a wheelchair, so that we integrate person with disability early in life to the rest of the society, because there is no way you can have me in a special school where when I become number one, no, I am number one among the stigmatized. But if I am in a normal school, then if I become number one, I will know, for instance, my friend the Jungle may be number 20, but I'm number one, then it means Jungle is disabled in class, but I'm disabled in the field, because Jungle will defeat me in the field, but I'll defeat him in class. And that time, my self-esteem will come up. And again, we'll know how to symbiotically assist each other. I may be assisting the Jungle in doing homework, but he will be assisting me in carrying water. So, because if you get a special primary school, a special secondary school, will you get a special university for me? Will you get a special supermarket for me, or a special workplace for me? No. I will eventually interact with the general public. So the earlier, the better. So I think we sat down. There are so many points. There was Agenda 101. We said, in line with Article 54 of our Constitution, we need 5% of employment. So if there are CS positions, one of them will belong to person with disability. There will be 2 PSs. There will be 2 senators, 2 members of parliament representing person with disability, and 94 county members assembly, members of a county assembly, so that we have total representation. So in terms of representation, we table our agenda in the manifesto. So if you see the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, and Linda, I urge you, please read the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza.
I was keenly following on that, and it's quite a big document, people are saying. And to be honest, Linda could easily read that for purposes of the show, as well as as a voter. But the common mwananchi, just how much capability and time and interest would they have to go through this document that people labeled, details to the extreme, contrary to what we'd expect of manifestos, Honorable Wa Jungle.
Yes. Kabla sijaingia pale, nataka kwanza nisalimie rafiki yangu, tunamuita nominee 001.
Nominee 001 anasema anataka kutoka siasa, lakini amesema hataki kutoka. Nashindwa, there's a time he was here and he said he will not seek to be nominated again.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, in this space of politics, where will he be playing? He's probably going to tell us that.
Well, he'll tell us. Lakini kwanza nikumalizie tu kile nilikuwa nasema wakati nimesema kwanza watu wa Thika wamenipatia kibali ya kuingia katika hii ulingo wa kisiasa ya county. Na niseme hii siasa ya county, tukiingia siasa ya county, rasilimali ya county ni kubwa mno ukilinganisha na rasilimali ya constituency. Pale nimesema ni 100 million. Tukifika county, we are talking in terms of billions. Actually, hapa Kiambu tumesema ile budget ama ile pesa inatoka kwa exchequer. Hiyo miaka imepita, miaka 5 imepita, imekuwa katikati ya bilioni 10 na bilioni 13. Hiyo ni kusema hiyo pesa ukifanya ama ukigawia kila sub county ni around half a billion per sub county. So ukiangalia pale kwa 100 million to half a billion, na in fact in 1 billion, hiyo ni kusema hiyo rasilimali ya sub county mpaka county ni kama mara 10. Kusema kama tumeweza kufanya ile kazi tumefanya pale kwa sub county, basi ni kusema tunaweza fanya kazi mara 10 kwa the same sub county wa Jango akiwa governor wa Kiambu. Okay. So hiyo ni muhimu. Lakini pia nikisema hii maneno ya manifesto. Nikitaka kusema hivi.
Na labda kabla haujatuambia hilo, mheshimiwa, labda tungependa kujua bado unashikilia kwamba unamsupport Deputy President William Ruto for the presidency, now that we all know that you are under UDA and whatever happened during the primaries and such is politics. Kuna wengine ambao walisema labda tutaendelea tukiwa wagombea huru na tutazidi kumuunga mkono naibu wa rais, na wengine wakasema sisi basi pale tunahisi kama ambavyo hakuna ile genuineness, kwa hiyo sisi tutavuka good.
Hiyo ni swali mzuri, lakini sawa
si sawa kuzungumzia hilo sasa. Kwa nini?
Ni sawa. Sisi sawa. Lakini ningetaka kusema hivi. Mimi pale niko na msimamo. Na ule msimamo niko nao ni kwamba wakati nilikuwa UDA, nilikuwa na support UDA hapa, ni sawa. Lakini sasa nimekuwa mgombea huru. Mgombea huru kusema nini? Sasa uko na kila kitu imechange hivi. Pale ukiwa pale UDA, ulikuwa UDA kwa sababu ulikuwa umeamini vile UDA ilikuwa inafanya kazi, ikafika pahali ukakuta pengine ni chama kama zile zingine. Ukikumbuka Linda, mimi nilikuwa mgombea wa Jubilee wakati niliingia siasa mara ya kwanza. Na wakati nilisimama na Jubilee walikuwa na preferred candidate pale Thika. Lakini mimi nikaingia tu kwa chama nikifikiria hii chama iko na uaminifu na iko na tuseme nikiingia kwa ile chama nitakuwa na haki yangu kwa ile chama. Lakini chama za Kenya ukiingia pale inakuwa ni kama business, inakuwa ni kitu ya raise pesa kwa hiyo chama na ni faida ya chama. Nikafika pale nikagongwa nje, nikaingia mgombea huru na nikashinda ile kiti. Lakini sasa kwa akili zangu nikafikiria pengine chama ya UDA iko different, lakini pia nikapata vile nikagongwa nje kwa sababu alikuwa na preferred candidate. Sasa hii nimeingia mgombea huru, lakini sasa nimesema
go through the primaries?
I did go through the primaries.
So why would you argue that it's the party that was against you, or perhaps it had a preferred candidate? You feel like the process wasn't free and fair?
Because politics is a process. It's not an event.
Would it not be unfair for you to, try and sway the minds of your supporters in this case? Is it not a bit selfish? Because after all, it could be about the gubernatorial position, but then again...
It is not about the masses. The party is not about the masses. Wakati huu sasa tunaenda kwa uchaguzi sasa wa IEBC. Ukiangalia uchaguzi wa IEBC tunaingia pale kuko na mikakati ambayo IEBC wameweka kuangalia na kuona kila mtu atakuwa na haki kwa ule uchaguzi. Vile tunasema ni hivi, vyama vyetu vya kisiasa hawavijafika pale wanaweza kusema haki ya kila mgombea imeangaliwa vizuri. Lakini kama hiyo haki haijaangaliwa, wewe ni nani sasa? Ukiwa wale mwenye chama wenyewe ndio wanaharibu ile mikakati ya kuona chama iko na haki ama wagombea wako na haki. Sasa wewe ni nani? Na ndivyo nimesema hivi, kwa wakati huu umeona wagombea huru wamekuwa wangapi? 6,000, 6,000. Hao ni watu wengi. Unataka kuniambia kuna mtu angetaka kuendelea kutumia pesa kama amegongwa vilivyo pale chini? Linda, fikiria hii. Kuingia kwa kugombea ugavana katika Kiambu County ni pesa mingi. Lakini mimi kama ningegongwa cha haki pale, unafikiria ningeenda kutumia pesa? MCA mwenyewe hata wengine hana ile hela. Lakini unakuta mtu ana insist mimi nataka kwenda mbele kwa sababu sikupata haki. Na ni pesa tu anaendelea kutumia na ni pesa zake. So nataka kusema hivi, ukiangalia na ukiona kwamba wagombea huru wamekuwa wengi hivi, ni kusema kwa vile vyama hakuna haki, hawakutenda haki, lakini pengine is a wake up call kwa vyama. For the first time bunge ya Kiambu, acha niongee maneno ya bunge ya Kiambu kwa sababu wanajua sana. Hapo utakuta na utapata wale watu walitupwa nje na vyama. Na sio UDA peke yake. Nasema kuna vyama mingi, zile kubwa sana tuseme ni ngani. Kuna Azimio na kuna Kenya Kwanza. Ukiona wale watu walitema na wameingia kama wagombea huru. Hawa watu ni wazuri na utakuta bunge ya Kiambu itakuwa na more than 60%. Watch this space. Itakuwa na more than 60% MCAs wagombea huru na governor wao wa Jungle atakuwa mgombea huru.
Kwa hivyo kwa ufupi umenijibu kwamba wewe kwa sasa
mimi ni mgombea huru, mimi mwingine atafute kura kama mimi vile mimi natafuta, lakini mimi mgombea huru. Mimi nikiingia Kenya Kwanza niko na marafiki wengi zaidi, nikifika pande nyingine Azimio niko na marafiki wengi zaidi, nikifika hapa katikati niko na marafiki wengi zaidi, na wote nawaita nawaambia wa Jungle hana ubaguzi. muingie serikali ya Kiambu, mpigie Wajango kura zenu, mkuje tutengeneze
rais, mpigie mtu yeyote
yule mnataka, lakini mkuje tutengeneze serikali yetu ya Kiambu. Hiyo ndio kitu binasimama ya ugavana.
Dr. Pamela Odhiambo is with us virtually, woman representative of Migori County. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us, Daktari. It is almost certain that Daktari then will be fronting the Right Honorable Raila Odinga for this particular position. Perhaps on this very angle that we, ask Wainaina Wa Jungle on the question of the primaries, and I know it's past that aspect of that, past that time, but do you suppose it's a little bit selfish for one to probably, lose it at the level of primaries and therefore shelve the interest, or probably just shelve their focus on, endorsing the main person who's probably going for the presidency just because they feel like they have been shortchanged at this particular level?
Good morning, Linda, and good morning, my colleagues Wa Jungle and Honorable Sankok. I think the issue of primaries now, if you would ask me sincerely, I may not want to discuss it as much, though I know there have been those issues and cases where feelings of unfairness and injustice are there. For example, in my case, I believe you are aware that I was not even allowed to go to the ballot with the opponent. Allegedly, the challenge I had was a bit strong, and for whatever reason, which I really don't want to delve in now, I don't know why the ticket had to go to the opponent. And as for me, I think I've been supporting a vision. I've been supporting principles that I think I believe in, and therefore I still remain in Azimio. So as for my colleague Wa Jungle, I think for now it may be justified for him as he is talking, because I think he may be looking at the landscapes and feeling if he goes this side, he may lose this side, like he has said. But I think after his election, much as he's talking about Kiambu County, the Kiambu County will not be operating in isolation. It will be operating in connection with the national government. And therefore, I believe, and I trust he did not say it, but even as he says he's concentrating about the Kiambu County government formation, I wouldn't be surprised if after his election, if he wins, he will need to work with one of those presidents who shall have been elected. I think that's been a normal practice even in parliament. I have seen those who came as independent candidates join one of the divides and vote together with them. So I will not be surprised about that. Otherwise, for now, that is his choice. But I think even in his own manifesto as a governor, I believe there is one of these presidential candidates who seem to have the same aspirations as himself, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to work closely with them, Linda.
All right, well, fair enough. Honorable Sankok, we come back to you. At this level, then you say perhaps you're not interested in being nominated again. And I mean, people are asking this question, and I think it's only fair that I ask on behalf of them. Yes.
I'm not interested in elective
and therefore, if
politics.
Nominated, this is based on what you have said before on this very show, that even on the aspect of the nomination, you'd really not be keen to get it.
You know, my mission currently is just to make sure that the deputy president, whom I believe in his manifesto, I believe in his mission, is to see him in State House. Once I have seen him in State House, then the rest will be history. I may be going for higher calling, just like my brother, Professor Kindiki. So just relax, Linda. Linda, I was discussing about the manifesto, and I have had my good friend, very good friend, the Jungle, and I'm sure he's still in Kenya Kwanza. I've heard him saying that this document is a bit voluminous and it's very difficult to read. But Linda, let me tell you, because it is a participatory document, it will not be difficult for the common mwananchi to read, because the common mwananchi was involved. in the county level. So if you are from Narok, for instance, you'll only go and read where you think you and where you raise some things. Like, for instance, if now for the counties that are pastoral counties, 14 of them, whom I know, one of the things they raised was about livestock and livestock byproducts. One of them was the issue of leather industry. You know, we discuss about the leather industry, and most of the counties from the pastoral region discuss about the leather industry. We said currently in Kenya, we are importing 25 million pairs of leather shoes. Yet in Kenya, we slaughter 3 million livestock, and another 1 million die out of droughts. We lose 95% of leather from those livestock, yet we slaughter them anyway. Whether we will use the leather or not, we'll slaughter them anyway. So we ask Kenya Kwanza that once they form government, the first thing is to make sure that there is no importation of leather byproducts, including leather shoes. And by doing so, then we will be able to use the leather from the 3 million livestock that we slaughter annually within Kenya. And each leather can produce around 40 shoes. That translates to almost 900 million shoes and 90 million shoes. And we need 25 million pairs of leather shoes. School-going children need 9 million pairs of leather shoes annually. We can have an industry worth more than 750 billion within this country by just blocking importation of leather byproducts, including leather shoes,
Honorable Sankok,
jackets,
in fairness of time, we need to understand that we might not be able to unpack that, and that's why we say it is important that the people of Kenya then will proceed to read this very document. Honorable Wainaina Wa Jungle.
What I was telling you,
yes,
Linda, just a minute. What I was telling you is that, and I was giving you an example, that now for somebody from the pastoral region, pastoralists, they will not go and read the whole manifesto. They'll go and read where was my idea of the leather industry captured, and then somebody from the disability world will go and capture where our disability economic charter that we gave to the president, that we need 10% of all market stalls to be set aside for persons with disability. Was it captured? So it will be easy for all citizens to read, because everybody will go for the specific that they contributed during our economic forum conferences.
All right, fair enough. And we have to take a quick break, and then we come back to you, Honorable Wainaina Wa Jungle, and that is on the aspect of the manifestos, the 4 that we already have presented to us. I think it's fair that we give it, or we give all of them that fair view, and that's why I said we cannot delve deep into the details, but then again, we need to convince the people of Kenya, of the importance of them going to read this very document before they make that crucial decision. It's only 34 days to the general election, and therefore this manifesto hugely would not be a determinant, but at least will be a guiding aspect of whom we get to choose. And therefore we take this short break and we come back on that very note. the manifesto because it's very, very important. And I know that we'd have Honorable Pamela as well wish to speak on behalf of her side. What will it take you to have the person that clinches power, that is at the level of the presidency, join them and support them at that very moment, in terms of, getting to work together, because that cohesion will be necessary if at all a government should be run proper?
Wacha kwanza niseme niongee kidogo juu ya manifesto kwa sababu hata mimi nikiwa mgombea huru niko na manifesto yangu.
Ndio.
Lakini sana manifesto issue ile tuko nayo kubwa hapa hii nchi yetu ni kuwa kila mtu akisimama kiti, kila mtu akitaka kuwa president, governor, whatever you want to be. Unakuta kuna watu wako na manifesto zingine murwa sana, refu, hata pengine wao ukiwauliza ni nini umeandika hapo pengine hawezi kukujibu. Lakini ningesema hivi, kuna wanasiasa wamekuwa kwa hii kazi kwa muda mrefu. Ukiona wale sasa wanagombea kiti ya urais saa hii, watu wamekuwa kwa siasa kwa miaka mingi sana. Lakini mimi kama Jango ningetaka kusema niambie watu wa Kiambu, wakati nimekuwa Thika, ni nini nimefanya kule Thika? Kwa sababu sasa nikikwambia kile iko kwa karatasi utakipata. Kwa hivyo hii manifesto, hata hii explanation, hatunakuja kutuambia maneno na manifesto, hata haingekuwa pale. Kwa sababu watu wangekuwa wameona kile umefanya. Mimi nikiwaambia watu wa Kiambu kwamba nikiingia kwa hii serikali ya Kiambu nitawajengea barabara, wanajua kule Thika nimetengeneza barabara kilomita 500. Na zile barabara nimetengeneza zile tunaita all weather roads. Hapa Kiambu nawaambia nitawatengenezea barabara kilomita 1000. Kwa hivyo hata akifanya mahesabu, wanaona sub county 500 kupata 3000, which is the minimum I can do.
Yeah.
Wanaona hapo kuna ukweli. Ukiona in fact I have 5 pillars. Acha kwanza nikwambie manifesto yangu kabla sitaingia wengine. Kwa sababu siwezi kuongea wengine kama sijakwambia wananchi ile yangu niko nayo. Niko na 5 pillars. Moja ni infrastructure. Infrastructure ni kusema barabara, ni kusema sistema za barabara kwa sababu ya 24 hour economy na security na maji. Hiyo ni infrastructure yangu. Nikiingia maneno ya ukulima. Ukulima Kiambu umetiliwa maanani sana. Kwa hivyo ningetaka kuona ukulima ule tunasema ukulima biashara, sio just ukulima. Ningetaka kuona what we call agro industry. Zile viwanda zinatokana na ukulima. Hiyo ni pila ya pili. Ya tatu ni ile masomo. Yale masomo ningetaka kuona ni ile tunasema technical. Ati mwanafunzi akimaliza masomo yake anaingia katika ile tunasema internship kwa kiwanda, anajua kufanya ile kazi miezi 3, miezi 6. Akitoka pale ile industry inamgojea kwa sababu ako na ujuzi. Ya nne ni ile tunaita healthcare ama afya. Ile afya tuko nayo, unakuta watu wameteseka sana, hawana pesa. In fact leader, ukiangalia katika simu yako, ukiamka tu asubuhi unakuta uko na kadi kama 5. Huyu amefanya hivi, huyu amefanya hivi, mwingine anaenda India, mwingine anaenda wapi. Kwa sababu sasa hapo ndipo nchi yetu imefika. Watu wamegojeka, hawana matibabu. Ningetaka sana kuona kuwa kuna bima kabisa kamilifu ile inaweza simamia watu katika matibabu ya kiafya. Na ukikumbuka pale mbele kulikuwa na wards zilikuwa zinaitwa amenity wards. Zile amenity wards ukiwa uko na pesa unaenda unalipa pesa juu kiasi, unapewa zile services kiasi, lakini hiyo pesa ilikuwa inachukuliwa inapelekwa kwa wale watu hawana, wanapewa basic services health care. Hiyo kitu ningetaka irudi, ile tunaita amenity, it was that principle. Alafu sasa ya mwisho ni ile tunaita economic empowerment. Watu wanashikana kwa vikundi, wanaanza kusave kidogo kidogo. Alafu sasa, na hii ni kitu nimefanya in fact uzuri wa manifesto yangu ni vitu nimefanya nikiingia pale juu. Sasa wale kile kikundi pale wakipata ile pesa wanachukua mradi, inaweza kuwa individual mradi wa kipekee wa kibinafsi ama mradi wa kikundi, lakini wale wakipata shilingi 1 tunawatafutia shilingi 2, inakuwa shilingi 3, wanaendelea na mradi. Hiyo economic empowerment. Nimewaambia zile vikundi tukiingia Kiambu, ile kadarazi zote zinafanyika pale. na kuwa napatia hizi vikundi, ili wakipata pesa kidogo wanafanya barabara, wanafanya ile faida, wanarudisha kwa kikundi chao. Kwa hivyo niseme hivi,
Mheshimiwa, wacha tutarejea kwako. Naomba nimpatie daktari hapa azungumze kuhusiana na masuala ya manifesto pia. Na pia nitazidi kusisitiza kwamba tutahitaji kujua unahisi vipi kuhusiana na manifesto ambazo zimetolewa na wagombea rais ambao ni wanne. Honorable Daktari, that is Pamela, here we come back to you. And the Azimio One Kenya manifesto came out fast. Probably Kenyans have had so much time, call it ample time, to go through the document. Are you confident that they have taken their time to do this, internalize, and therefore 34 days to the general election, when the D-Day comes, they will go to the ballot to vote based on their proper understanding? And even the supporters, aside from the aspect of, people would speak of, psychophancy and all that, will be convinced that this manifesto is the manifesto to give Kenyans that deliverance they've been yearning for?
Thank you very much, Linda. I noted that in the first set, I didn't get a chance to comment on this. And I would like to say that the Azimio manifesto is a very simple and comprehensive, though very nicely summarized for anybody to pick up what points they would like to understand. And I think I appreciate our presidential candidate and the team for doing a good job. And I must also say that it is a manifesto that has not just come out of the blues. If you look at our people, right from the mashinani, the deepest parts, rural parts of our country, and even those who dwell in the cities, I think whether they are women, young people, the youth, whether they are persons with disability or people who have got physical normal appearance, I think whether they are male or female, the needs of our people are well captured in this thing we are calling the manifesto today. And I also appreciate our party group that it came out fast. And I think by that, it gave Kenyans a little more time to look at it. But even before it is coming out, I think it is one of the very all-inclusive agendas that we have, both from the local, as I have said, and national level. Way back, I think almost 2.5 years, Raila Amolo Odinga has been going around this country. In the first leg, he was not even telling Kenyans anything. He was just wondering with varieties, different parts of our country. What exactly do you wish to see in this country? And therefore, they are all ideas which have been simplified, but reflecting the wishes of the people. So if you look at something like even the very first one, where we are talking about Inua Jamii, Pesa kwa Mfuko, it is talking about some sort of social welfare, because there are families in this country that even getting a 50 shillings in a week is an issue. And therefore, even when we talk about the poor, the best thing to do is not to give people ready-made food. It is to give them a means of getting that food. So when you give these people some money, that can also help them even to do their own small businesses, which are called aswekra in the language I come from. It makes a whole difference. You teach somebody how to get their 5 shillings, which they didn't have yesterday. And I think this is what our presidential candidate is promising our people. The Baba Care is all about wealth, health, and I think even before you cut short my colleague Wa Jungle, he was talking about health. This is a national issue. It is not specific to any part of this country. Kazi kwa wote, we are all aware that our young people, majority of them don't have jobs. But with the specific inclination to Juakali sector, which actually can translate most of our local materials into useful goods. And you can go on and on, uchumi kwa akina mama, education, water. And in brief, Linda, what I am saying, the Azimio agenda, the 10-point agenda, is simple enough to understand and simple enough and also detailed enough to give somebody a real working document. And I think I would want to give Azimio La Umoja, One Kenya Alliance credit for it. And when it comes to these manifestos, Linda, something else that I would like to say is that looking across the board, majority of them, they more or less look the same, because we are talking about agriculture, we are talking about industry, we are talking about water infrastructure in terms of roads, accessibility, and that kind of thing. However, the question here is, who is better placed to do it? Who must Kenyans take serious? For example, if you look at the Kenya Kwanza group, I love the way Honorable Sankok is trying to elaborate and give examples and say these things. But he's forgetting that the very man who went to head and champion this team has been part of this government, which is going out for the last 10 years. And one wonders, why was this not done in his own watch and under his care? I know he will retort and say, oh, there was the handshake and all that. But just shaking a hand with a friend to say that we'll work together to make you deliver does not mean that you now make final decisions for that friend. And I want to say that the case of education, for example, I've been in the education sector most of my life. And I think it has been very nasty to see some of our children, actually the majority, always shuttling between school and home in the name of fees. And yet, there have been monies allocated to help them in terms of bursaries and the rest, CDF, governor's bursary, the presidential award, and all those kind of things. And that's why when our presidential candidate sits down and analyzes these monies and team, we believe if we did the right thing in school, providing the right infrastructure, materials, and the teachers that are required to make our children learn, yes, the Kenyan child can actually go to school for free.
All right.
And it has been done in Germany. Denmark has done it in the past. America has done it. And Kenya can also do it. Well, so I think in terms of simplicity, yes, it is simple enough. In terms of details, yes, it captures everything that we like to hear. In terms of applicability, yes, it is a practical manifesto that can actually be delivered even by somebody who was never part of its writing.
Okay. And it hugely depends on goodwill from the leadership to address the same. But Honorable Sankok, as you get to respond to what Dr. Pamela says, similar troubles that these gentlemen seek to address for the people of Kenya. And reality is that we cannot read our manifestos in isolation. And when I say our manifestos, I refer to you in regards to, yes, Kenya Kwanza. I refer to Honorable Dr. Pamela in regards to reading the Azimio One Kenya manifesto, as well as Wa Jungle, who speaks of his, that is at the level of Kiambu County. You do not read in isolation. And, categorized these manifestos have been looked into, say, two sections. One, they say that one of Wajakoya and that one of your boss, that is Kenya Kwanza and Deputy President William Ruto, is more, or they are more of populist manifestos. On this other side, the Wahiga Mwaure and that one of Right Honorable Raila Odinga are more socialist. What would you say about this? And mostly when we focus on the practicability and sustainability of the same.
Linda, thank you very much. And before, let me answer my very good friend, Dr. Pamela. She has been a very good friend of mine within and outside Parliament. And when she talked about the Deputy President having been the Deputy President for 10 years, let me remind her that even Kibaki was also a Vice President for 10 years, but did not achieve what he achieved when he became the President, because the buck stopped at the President. The Deputy President is just but a principal advisor to the President. The President may decide to take his advice, the way you took in the first term of Jubilee administration, may decide to mutilate the constitution through executive orders, like executive order number 1, where the duties of the deputy president were reassigned to one Matiang'i, who was not even in the ballot. So I think literally that answers that question. And then when she talked about just a handshake will not affect things, let me remind her that Proverbs 27:6, a slap from a friend may be of more value than a kiss from an enemy. And we have seen this one during the time of Jesus Christ. You remember Judas when he kissed Jesus Christ, and that is the problems that we have currently. And this handshake may have been another synonymous kiss from Judas, which then ilisambaratisha the big four agenda, ilisambaratisha everything yenye tulikuwa nayo yenye tungeweza kuimplement. Ndio imefanya deputy president atengwe, na another quarter became the advisor, and that was illegal mutilation of the constitution, because there were duties that the constitution assigned to the deputy president. But then when they are assigned to somebody else, then you have mutilated the constitution legally. Now, coming to the manifesto. Yes, we cannot read the manifesto in isolation. And from the manifesto of Azimio, especially point number 1, is not actually teaching people how to fish. It is actually giving people fish, because those are handouts when you give somebody 6,000 Kenya shillings. In fact, when we had the Disability Economic Charter signing, persons with disability themselves came out and said, even though we are persons with disability, we need opportunities, we don't need sympathy. We need to be economically empowered, we don't need handouts. Because for a long time, Kenyans have been taken as supplicant, always seeking favors in the hands of dubious politicians. They become like malleable clay. But what Kenyans are saying is that, teach me how to fish, so that when I need that fish, I just go and get the fish myself, rather than depending on you to give me a fish every morning, every evening. And how do we intend to teach them how to fish? Persons with disability, we said, market stalls, 10% of them should be allocated to persons with disability, so that we can empower ourselves, so that we can fish for ourselves. We also said, we heard about the Hustler Fund in Kenya Kwanza. In the Hustler Fund, 10% of the Hustler Fund should be allocated to businesses owned by persons with disability, so that persons with disability can do business themselves. We also said our kids with disability should be given 15% of all the bursaries, so that if there are bursaries in National Government Affirmative Action Fund, there are bursaries in CDF, there are bursaries in county government, then 15 bursaries should be set aside for persons or peoples with disability, so that we can also educate them, they become doctors, they become fishermen, they can fish for themselves.
While
so,
it is possible,
Linda,
yes.
Literally, when we talk about our manifesto, we know where we are going to, and we don't think the issue of handout will assist in any way. When it came to healthcare, we said even the provision of assistance for persons with disability. So, Linda, when you are a person with disability, you like to see in that manifesto, is my issues captured? Now, you say that we cannot discuss a manifesto in isolation. When it came to the manifesto of Professor Jacoa, of course, Professor is a very good friend of mine. He's my personal lawyer, and I wish him all the best. But when I hear him talking about certain anatomical areas of highness, you may get the highness. Where do you get them? How much will we spend in trying to get the highness? And, in Kenya, we only have around 10,000 highness. So even if you get the 10,000 of them, and each of the equipments he was talking about costs around, as he claimed, 1 million, then we'll only have probably 1.2 billion from highness, which is something that is not economically viable. And again, what does the highness do to our ecosystem? They are biological cabbage collectors. God have blessed them that they can eat any rotten things that have bacteria so that they can eliminate the bacteria from our society. God have blessed them with very powerful jaws that they can clean our environment out of bones. So if Wajakao can now sell all our hyenas, and in fact he's not selling the meat, he's selling, I think it was testicles or something like that. So if he sell all of the hyenas and the hyenas are dead, who will then become the cabbage, biological cabbage collector? Does it mean now
that question to Honorable Wa Jungle?
Have to set a fund?
Let's throw that question to Honorable Wa Jungle, and we'll be coming to the aspect of the practicability of all this that has been presented to us. While a majority of them will tell you that we've been here long enough, we understand how government operates, we know where the monies are, and therefore we would wish to do this for the people of Kenya. Reality is that we are coming from a space where, you know, the economic times are tough. We are coming from a point where we cannot even sustain our very own budget. We are coming from a point where the country is reeling because of the question of corruption, the high cost of living and all that. That turnaround that these leaders are promising us, while they could have the best and beautiful of manifestos, while they could have the interests of the people at heart, while they could be genuine with what it is that they present, the practicability of this that they present to us is what we question. Do you suppose there's any of them that confidently, you know, it convinces you that practically they can get into it, and within this 100 days that they speak of, at least we get to see a shift?
Wacha niseme hivi, with all due respect, nimeangalia manifesto ya Kenya Kwanza, nimeangalia manifesto ya Azimio, na all those documents, they're so practicable, they look good, they look beautiful, lakini niseme hivi, na niseme tena, shida yetu wa Kenya, viongozi wa Kenya, ni implementation ya kile tunasema. Tunasema vizuri, vitu mzuri, tamu kwa mdomo, lakini tukikuja implementation na kufanya, vitendo ni zero. Unapatia 100% maandishi, ukiangalia mpaka constitution ya Kenya, ukiangalia laws, kila kitu iko sawa swari Salmin, lakini ukija maneno ya kufanya inakuwa ni shida. Na niseme hivi, sana kwanza ukiangalia hizi manifestos, alafu uangalie maneno ya corruption. Na sana I give it to Kenya Kwanza kwa sababu maneno ya corruption wameileta vizuri sana, na mpaka wamesema vile watawaadhibu wale watu watakuwa kwa corruption. Kwa hii nchi, na yule rais anakuja hapa, kama hata kuwa na niseme na mikakati ya kumaliza ufisadi, hakuna pahali hii nchi itaenda. Kwa sababu ukiangalia vile tunafanya hapa, watu wa biashara, tuko na resources, tuko na kila kitu. In fact, yule rais anaingia saa hii, kama angekuwa rais angejua kabisa na akona goodwill ya hii nchi, ile infrastructure imetengenezwa na serikali ya Jubilee, just ride on that infrastructure, na hii nchi inaweza kuwa mbele sana. So pale tunaingia na pale tunasema ni hivi, ukiangalia gazeti ya leo ya Standard inasema juu ya gharama ya maisha. Na wamesema yule rais atakuja hapa sasa, yule ataingia mwezi wa 8, kama hata shikilia na weke mikakati ya kufanya nini, ya kudeal na gharama ya maisha, basi bado hiyo serikali pengine kwa ndani ya miezi 3 miezi 6 kutakuwa na mashida. So mimi nataka kusema hivi, manifesto ni mzuri, vitendo vinaongea zaidi ya maandishi. Kwa hivyo hii tunaona hapa ni mzuri, andikeni kile mnataka, lakini kabisa nawaambia wa Kenya, kama kabisa ungetaka kuona ni serikali gani itafanya, tafadhali angalia past, hiyo history, angalia ni nani akona track record, na kama akona track record na atuambia atafanya, kweli kabisa atafanya. Na sio sana sio tu kiti ya rais, angalia kutoka pale chini, kwa sababu mpaka wale MCAs, hao watu wako kwa maisha yako, wao watu ndio wako kwa ground. Kwa hivyo angalia kutoka MCA, angalia MP, angalia governor, ukiendelea kwa urais. Lakini sana kiti ya governor na ya urais ni kiti ya muhimu sana katika maisha ya Wakenya. Inaweza badilisha maisha ya Wakenya kama hizo serikali zitaendeshwa vizuri bila ufisadi. Ufisadi, nasema tena, ufisadi, let me say in English, corruption and impunity is what has taken this country to where it is today.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, and Honorable Sankok, they would say that based on the expectations of Kenyans, we did not see your team perhaps addressing how best they would be able to deal with corruption to perfection. That will come to answer as well. We'd seek to see Dr. Pamela address this matter that you have raised at some point in time, that theirs is a question of dishing out handouts, and therefore you have poured cold water on this manifesto of Azimio One Kenya, saying that they really do not have anything practical in terms of making sure that they give Kenyans a sustainable way of getting income. So we take a short break and we come back on that very note. In on the Agano manifesto, and most importantly, this conversation of this presidential candidate coming out to the people and saying, perhaps it is important that you help me out in my campaigns by topping up or giving up some amounts that would help us go and traverse the different parts of the country, knowing very well that the IBC gave warning at some point in time that politics is an expensive affair, that the presidency itself, getting to clinch the presidency, you have to spend lots of money. Do you suppose this is an individual who came out not prepared?
Thank you very much, Linda. To what you asked, I don't think my colleague and friend, Honorable Sankok, really even listens to himself, what he's saying. when I talked about not giving people fish and rather teaching them on how to get their own fish, I also listened to him talking of Hustlers Fund, which they claim they would want to allocate to PW at a rate of, I think, between 10 to 15% and things like that. All we are saying here, Linda, the 6,000 is not handout per se, but everybody, for them to start even the smallest business of even just selling roasted njugu or nuts by the roadside, they need some very small or big startup capital. And I think, having surveyed Kenya, in fact, the economy of Kenya is riding on the small businesses. And if we stop that corruption and the fraudulent uses of the various funds that we have in the government of Kenya, then it is a social welfare kind of thing where you give each person a hook to start looking for their own fish. In every one of these manifestos I said earlier, you will find every one of them, somebody is promising to give people how to start. In fact, when you talk about the kazi kwa vijana and the Juakali sector, there is a promise of some fund, a cheaper fund, that will be given to our young people, not to employ them in some offices, but to help them start their own Juakali industry and prosper it, depending on what skill they have. And I think this is what we are saying. So just claiming that these are handouts, they are not handouts. They are monies that when you get, at least you can use some as a household, buy soap to bathe, buy chumvi to put in your food, and a little of it, get something to do something. I think all of us have always started like this. Whenever we are talking about the fishing, locally down in the lake, we have something called olo, some sort of hook attached to a string and a stick that can help you pull that fish out of the water. And so each Kenyan needs to have this olo. Some of us started our businesses from, like, when I was going to the university, there was this small money that we were given to sustain us. I remember starting my mboga and nyanya and the food selling business from this small amount of money that we were given as university students. And this is what Baba is saying. It is not a matter of just giving people money. It is money which is targeting those who don't have at all. And if they don't have at all, there is no way you can expect them to start even that Aswekra was talking about, for example, get just a small trough of omena and come and sell it to people to next to your house. This is what most of our mothers actually feed their families on. And so when Sankok talks of ours being a handout and theirs allocated to the persons with disability is not a handout, then I get confused. But I think, Linda, what is important in all these manifestos, are we willing to walk the talk? And why I discredit any promises or any commitments made by Kenya Kwanza, and especially their leader. We have had a number of promises that he makes, and we have never seen any of them go anywhere. Like the case of the laptops for our children in school, this agriculture that is now dying, he actually headed it some time back, and even as a deputy. Sankok is telling us at some stage that the deputy is just a nobody who only takes orders from the president. And at the same time, he is crying foul that when the handshake came, then his role of advising the president is taken away. This kind of contradiction is not going to help Kenyans. What we are saying, those manifestos, they are promises, and they are promissory notes to our people. The key thing, I think, has been nailed by my colleague, Wa Jungle, is their willingness to implement them to the letter. Will Kenyans stop the noise and look into the face of our leaders and say, you promised us this within this duration of time? Where is it? So that the whole work of auditing and monitoring of evolution is not just left to the Auditor General. Each Kenyan can actually listen. And that's why I'm even appealing to those young men who go to rallies. Stop shouting when your leaders are talking. Listen and hear what it is that they are promising you and why they want you to elect them and take them to account by the end of the day. I think what I said about our manifesto, it is inclusive enough, it is detailed enough, it captured both local and national interest of the people of Kenya, and then it is simplified enough that even me, Pamela, if I was given, say, the docket of education or something else to implement these things, I would. Because if the money is there and I'm not interested in stealing it, I know we will make sense out of this Azimio manifesto. But people who are giving us promises when they have failed Kenyans miserably, not in the far past, but even in the current past, I don't think there is any merits. As to the issue of funding for
campaigns.
Yes,
for Maure.
Depending on where you are campaigning, it is important to know that the campaigners actually need funding for logistics, materials, and things like that. But allow me to say this in a nutshell. Before you come out to build a house, it is important to check whether you are able to meet the cost of that building. Jesus said so. And I think all aspirants and all people of Kenya who wants to vie for one or the other seat, they need to get well prepared. But I would also plead that going forward, I think we need not to make our campaigns so money intensive. Apart from the moving from one point to the next, apart from the materials that can announce your presence, I think other monies that may be used to sawishi people or bribe them or buy them, these costs can be cut down. When Kenyans will move from a more subjective orientation of politics to a more objective, where Kenyans want to listen to the objective that you have or the goal or the vision that you have for them and not demand for any cash or anything, then I think the cost of campaigns may go down. But I think each candidate ought to prepare well for what they set out to do.
All right. Honorable Sankok, as you respond to Mheshimiwa and perhaps come to you, yes, who is also out there, going out there to probably present your interest to speak to the people, definitely you'd want to weigh in on the question of, how expensive our campaigns are today. But first, let's allow Honorable Sankok respond to Daktari.
Yes, Linda, let me remind Daktari that the only manifesto that we can hold the leader accountable is the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, because the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza is a culmination of economic charters that were signed by leaders of Kenya Kwanza. We'll hold them accountable by their signature. Let me also remind my friend, Honorable Dr. Pamela, that why I say it is handout, it is because they are targeting families and individuals. The Hustler Fund will be targeting businesses owned by persons with disabilities, businesses owned by youth, and businesses owned by women. So our fund is actually targeting businesses to economically empower them by teaching them how to fish. When we say teaching you how to fish, is teaching you how to do business. So when a fund is targeting business, then it is now teaching you how to fish. But when a fund is targeting an individual so that you can buy food, which is a social model, then that one is giving out fish. I think my good friend Pamela is well educated there. And, sometimes you may say, where do we get this money? as Kenya Kwanza, we know where the money will come from. And I give you an example, Linda, that Kenya Airways, which is a corporation, which is a parastatal, only owns 2 aircrafts. The rest are owned by leaders in government who then rent to Kenya Airways at exorbitant prices, and Kenya Airways will never make any profit. That is why every now and then we are resuscitating Kenya Airways by allocating through parliament billions of shillings. So we are saying this time around, we will not allow state capture. We will allow KQ to make businesses, and the money, like 100 billion that parliament have allocated to KQ, will then go into Hustler Fund. Because when you have 100 billion, for instance, Linda, and support 1 million businesses at 100,000 each, then you'll have 1 million new taxpayers, 1 million entrepreneurs that are running businesses ranging from piki-piki, ranging from saloons, ranging from kiosks, and even M-Pesa shops. Then you'll have 1 million of them being new taxpayers,
Honorable
1 million
Sankok,
of them being potential employers.
Kenyans
Because
continue.
if you have a saloon, then you can employ probably 1 person.
Honorable Sankok.
Linda, again.
Yeah.
Yes?
Well, Kenyans continue to question the viability of that. They call it a billionaire manifesto or a billionaire hustler manifesto, in the sense that the people who are presenting this manifesto claim to be hustlers, yet they are billionaires. And the questions that they are asking today is that, the details... Sorry?
No, I'm getting you, Linda.
Yes,
Linda, we lost you.
You know, when you are talking about a person being a billionaire and talking about a manifesto for the hustlers, Linda, a hustler is somebody who wake up before others, work hard to earn a genuine living. And when you wake up to earn a genuine living, does not mean that you remain poor. Hustlers does not mean that you are poor. Hustlers mean you are working for your genuine earning. And in the process of working hard, then God will bless you. And you will come from being a poor person to being a billionaire. But does not take away the fact that you have hustled your way up. You know, you cannot say that simply because you are born poor, you will remain poor. And that is why we want to economically empower those who have left at the bottom of the pyramid.
Linda, if you allow me to finish, giving promises. We have seen
the bottom-up economic model is in the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, is so simple and it is so simplified. It is that in the bottom-up economic model, we will use what we call labor-intensive infrastructure as a government rather than capital-intensive infrastructure. I can give you an example of the Nairobi Expressway, which used 80 billion. That 80 billion is capital-intensive. It only created 3,000 jobs. But if we had put it in affordable housing, which is a labor-intensive investment, then we will have probably built 80,000 units of 1 million each, and each unit will require a plumber, a carpenter, a mason, an electrician, and so on, 5 of them. So 5 times 80,000 will have created 400,000 new jobs in labor-intensive versus the capital-intensive of Nairobi Expressway that have only created 3,000 jobs. And will only benefit those who are going to the airport.
Honorable Sankok, pundits or those ones that are, professors of these manifestos would argue that dishing out so much information like Kenya Kwanza has done could be concocting poison for themselves, because they will be held to account, like you rightfully put it, based on this. And in the event that they fail to address the same and live up to the promises, then it will be trouble, because the document will be there to remind them. Before you respond to that, let's allow Honorable Wa Jungle right here in studio as well to weigh in on the same. But most importantly, the question of how expensive, these campaigns are, how expensive it is to go out there and speak to the people, try to coerce or try to get them enticed to move to your side and vote for you. And perhaps that's the reason why we might not be able to deal with the question of corruption, because a majority of these leaders that find their way into, the seat, they will always seek to probably just, first of all, get back the monies that they spent, get themselves back to equilibrium. It's unfortunate to note that there's a time I had, able members of the society on set, and they argued that not to worry about, they were telling the presidential candidates, please do not worry about who votes for you down there, or the 6-piece thing, or, trying to get UDA all the way down, because after you have been elected, then you will go and entice them with 2-3 coins, and because they are broke at this point, because they have spent so much during the campaigns, they'll definitely move to your side because of these monies that you'll have given them. Do you suppose it's an expensive affair that perhaps we need to look into it, as Doctor would suggest?
Hii swali mzuri. Lakini tafadhali wacha niangalie nyuma kidogo tu, niangalie hiyo manifesto. Nimesikia manifesto ya Kenya Kwanza, nimesikia manifesto ya Azimio. Kuna manifesto ingine tunasahau ya the roots tingiza mti. Na kuna Wahiga mwaone. Agano party. Lakini tena niseme hivi. Ukiangalia hizi manifesto na ukiangalia vile, kwa sababu zote zinaangazia maneno ya economic empowerment, lakini ukiangalia vile economic empowerment, kuna jambo muhimu sana wote wanakosea, kwa sababu wote wanaangalia vile wata support hizo businesses, lakini implementation sana ndio wangani shida. Na ukiangalia kama sasa hapa kwa constituency, tuko na funds 3. Tuna women fund, tuko na uwezo fund, na kuna ingine tunaita youth fund. Lakini ukiangalia zile funds vile zimekuwa designed, unakuta hiyo fund ukienda ukipatia wakina mama, wakina youths, unaenda unawapatia 100,000 na ni watu 10. Sasa sijui 100,000 za kufanya kazi gani, lakini hata ukiwapatia saa zingine, na ile mentality tuko nao sisi kama Wakenya, tunasema hii ni pesa ya serikali, ni pesa ya umma, ni donation. Mnakatakana tu huko, pengine by evening imekunywa pombe na imeisha. Lakini tena ukiangalia ni nini tunaweza fanya, kwa sababu hiyo ni pesa mingi, kwa sababu ukiangalia kama sasa Dhika we have been able to turn around uwezo fund almost 60 million. Inakuja inaenda. In fact it's one of the most successful funds. Lakini sasa vile nimefanya mimi kwangu, and sorry to say, pengine I don't know whether it's legal or illegal. Mimi nasisitiza kabisa ni lazima nione akiba hiyo group. Kama hiyo group inakuja, ni nini mmekuwa mnafanya? Ni kazi gani mmekuwa mnafanya? Mko na biashara ya kweli, ama mnakuja tu kusema unataka pesa? Kwa sababu in fact nilienda kule nikakuta groups kwa karatasi iko watu 20, lakini ukiwaita, ukienda kuangalia vile wanafanya, ni watu 2 tu. Wameshikana tu pale, wanachukua hiyo pesa, wanafanya table banking, wanakurudishia after 1 year. So hapo hakuna nafasi za kazi, hakuna job creation, hakuna nini. Sasa nawaambia, mimi nataka kuona hiyo group, mko na kuku, mko na nini? Ni nini hii mnafanya? Lakini hata kabla nimpatie nyinyi, ni nini mko na akiba kweli? So na niseme hivi, kama hizo groups hazina akiba, hakuna vile utapatia mtu from zero na atengeneze pesa. It's not gonna happen. Kwa hivyo hizi funds zote nasikia, hasa funds nini, kama implementation hawataangalia vizuri, pia itakuwa white elephant na hakuna pahali hii nchi itaenda. Alafu niseme kwa ingine, niseme sisi kama viongozi tumeanguka kabisa. Ukiangalia bei ya unga leo 220 shillings per packet. Sasa mimi naenda kupiga siasa, sasa naangalia hawa watu na shida. Hawa watu wanajua nimekuwa kwa serikali miaka 5. Unga ni 20 ni 220.
Amepunguzwa na shilingi 2.
Serikali imetoa shilingi 2. Sasa niseme hawa watu kweli, kusema kweli, unawaambia story gani? Atiwa utakuwa nini na umekuwa kwa serikali? Sasa it's very embarrassing. Totally embarrassing. Na niseme hivi, kweli, kusema kweli, ile serikali inaingia executive, wacha tuwe serious. Wakati Rift Valley wako na mahindi mpaka wakati wanavuna wanauza gunia 1,000 hivi, 1,000 hivi. Yeah? Lakini saa hii ile mahindi tuna import, ama ile itaingia kwa hii nchi, itaingia na 4,000. Nakwambia hivyo. Kwa nini tusichukue? Kwa nini serikali isichukue ile 4,000? Wapatie hawa watu wanavuna, na wakivuna, hata hii maneno wanasema they are going to subsidize fertilizer. What for? A number of these people ununua hiyo mahindi kwa bei nafuu. wapatie 3,000 4,000, wao waende wanunue fertilizer yao, watalipa wafanyikazi, shamba zao zitaanza kuzalisha. In fact, after a year, this country can be a net exporter of maize and other staple food.
Okay.
Yeah? Lakini kwa sababu ukiangalia kila serikali short term, very short term. Mahindi tunavuna, tunauza 1,000, inaisha, tunaanza kuimport at 5,000 year in year out. Mbona hizi serikali, hawa watu wamekuwa kwa serikali miaka yote, mbona hakuna mtu amekaa chini na amesema sasa nataka kupata, I want to make a change in what happens in this country as far as food security is concerned. Na sio hiyo tu. Kama mimi ni biashara, mimi mfanya biashara. Na mimi niko mfanya biashara sana na deal na chakula. Ile chakula mimi na deal nayo sana ni macadamia avocado. Hiyo deal tunasema high value product. High value crop. Ukiona saa hii kilo moja ya macadamia ni 150 shillings. Saa hii huwezi pata avocado kwa shamba. Haiwezi kabisa, haiwezi. Saa hii tunanunua ile ya mafuta tunainunua shilingi 40. Ile ya export saa hii ni 80 na bado huwezi kuipata. Mti moja hivi one plant inakupatia 7,000 kwa mwaka. Sasa wale wakulima wa mahindi, mimi hata sio zenda kuongea maneno ya mahindi. Mimi nawapelekea avocado, wanapanda huko, wanaanza kupata pesa. Lakini tunasema hivi, kama gunia moja ya mahindi ni 1,000, hawa watu ukiweka avocado moja itakupatia gunia 7. Wewe utapata avocado ama utaenda kupata mahindi? Lakini tunasema hivi, hii isipokuwa serikali nao iingie, ifanye mmea wa mahindi ukue ukulima biashara. Hakuna wakati tutakuwa na food security kwa hii nchi. Watu wanataka mali, watu wanataka ukulima biashara. You must get serious. Na hii maneno unasema guaranteed fund, hakuna vile utapata return ya chakula. Useme ati okay, nimeona kwa manifestos mingi nimesema wanasema minimum guaranteed prices. How can you have a minimum? Mimi mfanya biashara, mimi nimefanya macadamia high crop. Hata hiyo kuna wakati inashuka 50, inainuka inakuwa 250. Hapo katikati hakuna mtu akona uwezo. Hiyo ndio biashara. Hiyo ndio biashara. What we need to do ni hawa wakulima tuwawezeshe kufanya biashara na ukulima wao. Hiyo ndio tu tunaweza saidia. Kwa hizo manifesto zote hakuna vile nimeona ime address maneno ya ukulima, food security vile inatakikana. Mtu ataandika tu food security, hakuna hata moja.
Wamezungumzia mengi sana kuhusiana na hilo.
Wajakoya anatuambia maneno ya nini? Ya bangi.
Ya nyoka na
bangi. Nyoka na nini? Sasa
tutarejea kwako mheshimiwa, na najua hujalijibu swali langu bado, lakini hilo pia tutalirejelea hapo baadaye. Honorable Daktari, and we come to the question of just how important it is to see that these manifestos are addressed at the level of campaigns, and we have seen the campaign trails not so much of capitalizing and maximizing of these conversations of the manifestos of what it is that the leaders seek to do to the people of Kenya. They say that the Azimio One Kenya team has stooped a little bit low in terms of some of the matters that they addressed at the level of their campaigns, including what played out over the weekend as we're trying to play the recording of Deputy President William Ruto, his utterances, and trying to unpack that and criticize him, and pointing fingers here and there, as opposed to addressing the high cost of living and the manifestos that they bring to the people. Is it because they also do not have faith in the same?
Well, Linda, that's a begging question, and if you'd allow me, I would address it in a different manner.
Okay.
I would want to point out that the criticisms and accusations and counter accusations have been characterizing our politics for a long time. And if you listened to me a few minutes ago, I begged to appeal to the listeners to be keen and wonder what are their leaders saying. And I think starting by myself, I have been struggling to actually do the kind of politics where I talk to my listeners about what is important and what we want to do and what is affecting them and how we want to do it. And that's why I'm saying Over the weekend, I'm sorry, some of the functions I didn't attend, but I think all our leaders, as Wa Jungle says, at some point leaders need to assess themselves and wonder, when I'm given a microphone, what is it that I'm saying? Sometimes we have turned our campaign sprees into just gimmicks and playgrounds and entertainment occasions, which I don't think is very good for our people and for us as leaders, to the extent that some of our leaders actually become abusive, literally. And I think this is bad manners. And what I would wish, when a leader stands up, and I think more often than not, Baba himself has done this, and I want to appreciate him for that. Please talk about the manifesto. I think I've attended these meetings. Even today, I will attend one, and I will listen to him talking about Pesa Mfukoni, talking about Baba Care, talking about free education, talking about free health care, talking about food security and all those. I think that is what our leaders need to do. So maybe, Linda, this is a very good question, and I wish every leader is listening to us this morning. It is important that at this level, Kenyans, we change the face of politics. Instead of somebody coming up to tell us how their boobs are made or how their buttocks or whatever, we need to talk to our people sense. And the Kenyans that are listening are also sometimes very interesting. When you find somebody who wants to talk about serious points one after another, they would shy off. And it is those people who sometimes shout nonsense that they would marvel about and be excited and be enthusiastic about. So I think the system that we have raised before, we have reached a level where we need sobriety. And if we have to understand these leaders, and especially the implementation of their promises that we have talked about, then we need to be keen and carefully see to it that the leader or the leaders talk to us more about what they believe in than some of the things that do not matter. I have said accusations and counter-accusations will not help our country. What will help our country is one woman, two women, one man, two or more men who are dedicated to doing what can help our people. You may even just keep quiet, not even talk. For example, Linda, I'm glad as a women rep of Migori County. Today, if you go to Migori County, there are women and youth that you'll find they are harvesting tomatoes and vegetables from the greenhouses that I gave them. You'll find there are young men who are making eco bricks. You'll find that there are young people who are doing boda bodas because we showed them how to create investments and little savings that can also allow them to buy their own pikis as opposed to driving other people's. And this is the kind of leadership that we should propagate further in this country. All this alabaloo about name calling and shouting crazy things before children, it is not fair. Right. And I think as a leader, it is also something that sometimes I feel humiliates my personality. And I would encourage all the leaders, whether at the ward level, constituency level, governors level, or national level, and more so at the national level, what you may consider a joke in your locality may be a serious embarrassment at one corner of the nation. And we must respect our cultural diversity and how we use language. I think I want to leave it there, Linda.
All right, fair enough. Daktari and the other gentlemen, allow us to take a quick break and then we come back on the last laps of this very program. I know there's so much that is happening politically. We'd love to discuss all that, but time would not allow us. But the little that we'll manage, we are grateful for the same. So we take that short break and we come back with more. Ole Sankok, as well as Honorable Patrick Wainaina Wa Jungle. It's the very last minutes. We will be spending about 20 minutes or less right here as we sum it up. Honorable Pamela, before I come back to you on the question of whether we go digital or we just focus on the printed ballot papers, is one thing that is a debate up until now, much as IBC says that they will have, yes, the printed papers. That is to just be a backup plan in the event that the digital systems then would fail. But before we get to that, Honorable Ole Sankok, in terms of what leaders are speaking during these times of campaigns, the last lapse, only 34 days to it, perhaps less days when it comes to the question of campaigns. Do you suppose that the leadership of Kenya Kwanza has represented you well? If you look at the papers this morning, they speak of Rigathi Gachagua and how much of gains he's brought to the people, or he's brought to the Kenya Kwanza chunk, as well as Honorable Martha Karua. His utterances on the campaign trails have been faulted by very many. Would you suppose that he should at least go low on what it is that he utters, or some of the things that he says out there, or he's done it well in terms of making sure that you people get to win votes?
Let me concur today for the first time with the Dr. Pamela that some of these utterances, especially playing out audios, some sarakasi that are played, especially on the Azimio train. You remember the audio that they were playing everywhere was shameful, and I thank God it backfired on them, because the audio of the purported slapping of the president by the deputy president have shown Kenyan that the deputy president said, kama sio heshima nilikuwa nayo na rais, ningemsaba makofi. Kumaanisha naibu wa rais anamheshimu sana Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Na ilibidi ampeleke Bama, aenda amlie nyama, amtulize, ndio waende to the repeat election. Imeonyesha pia ya kwamba the deputy president William Ruto is not selfish, because if he was not selfish, he will have told the president, okay, go to Sheweru, retire, resign, enda nyumbani, because constitutionally it will have been the deputy president who will have been the beneficiary, because he will have been the president straight away, because that is our constitution. But because he loves his friend and because he support the president, he actually pleaded with him not to give up. So that audio that they played, that sarakasi, it actually backfired on them. Now, coming back to what you have asked, Rigathi Gachagua is a known technocrat and is a known politician who is very strong, not only within Mount Kenya, but throughout the country. He has been somebody who have risen from the ranks of a PA to even Uhuru Kenyatta, to a DO, to a politician, and now to a deputy president in just 34 days to come. So Rigathi Gachagua, to me, he has performed more than my expectations. In fact, if I were to add him marks, I will say that he has scored 100% ever since he was assigned the duties of being the running mate of William Ruto. And you know, in Kenya Kwanza, we did not just
we lost Mheshimiwa right there, and I'm sure we'll be getting back to him.
Sorry, Linda, kidogo, yeah. Linda. So when we came up with the running mate position, it was a consultative decision that we have to have somebody whom will complement with William Ruto. We looked at the strength and weakness of William Ruto, because each individual have strengths and weaknesses. We looked at the strength and weaknesses of every possible running mate of William Ruto, and we settled on Rigathi Gachagua, and it was the best choice. As Kenya Kwanza, we are satisfied, and I think we have not had any complaint from Kenya Kwanza. No wonder we still have 95% of the mountain, including my friend the Jungle. You know, he's not just coming out clear, but he's part of us and is actually supporting us. Imagine Rigathi Gachagua making us win the mountain, yeah, including even the captain of the chairman of Azimio, La Umoja. You know, you know the cousin, that is Congo, who is the cousin to Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta is the chairman of Azimio, but he's supporting us because of how we have penetrated the mountain, courtesy of the able leadership of Rigathi Gachagua.
But just have you really penetrated the mountain? Let's loop in Honorable Dr. Pamela as we get to release her to attend to some other matters. Do you suppose that Martha Karua has helped Baba penetrate the mountain, as of course what it is that the Standard newspaper dictates this morning? They say 49% possibility of her garnering the vote for Right Honorable Raila Odinga in comparison to Rigathi Gachagua, who's brought 30% possibility to Deputy President William Ruto, whom they say had made lots of gains at the level of the mountain. And so in this case, do you trust in Karua to the very last day to deliver?
Thank you very much, Linda. As I finish this, I might have to leave, and I will appreciate you and my colleagues in advance. Now, my brother Sankok sometimes says so many things that do not make sense. I'm wondering why he's insisting that Wajangwa is supporting them, and Wajangwa himself is here. Wajangwa himself is here and he's not saying so. And then he's talking about those videos. What I was addressing is not necessarily those videos. I am pleading that even as we talk here, remember some children, some elderly person, some very important people in this nation and the world is actually looking at us and listening to what we are saying. So I pray that we only talk that which builds and that which makes sense, if I may use my biblical language, that which builds and that not brings down. I am very happy about Martha Karua, and in fact, congratulations, Lady Martha Karua, once again, my deputy president, because I think looking at Martha Karua, even her past, she's been this person who would be astute, does not necessarily mince her words and says the point as it is and with a lot of humility. In fact, Martha has come in with the female and the human component of politics into Azimio. Everywhere she's been going, Martha has been able to address issues and have not had any name callings from her. And I think to that extent, I want to say bravo and soldier on, lady behind you. And the coming to Mount Kenya, I think we thank God for Kenya Kwanza choosing Rigathi. Every time he gets hold of a microphone and tries to address the people of Mount Kenya, we get like 20 to 30% every time. And so I pray that he continues with this trend. And by the end of the day, Martha may not only deliver the 49, but may deliver much more than what may be expected. I am part of Mount Kenya by virtue that I have relations, I have friends, I am actually living among them, and I know what the talk in the village is as at now. The elders, the Council of Elders of this region are very serious about Azimio, and I think by the end of the day, Kenya Kwanza watch the space. In fact, even if you look at the rallies they hold these days, they are not as crowded as they used to be before. Even the young people, the youth, are looking up and saying, wait a minute, what is it that we have been running after? So I'm confident that the entry of Martha Karua has been a game changer for Azimio in the mountain region, and it is going to continue doing so, not only in the mountain region, but in the entire nation, because if there is one thing that Kenya Kwanza must know, the Kenyans are more and more trusting leadership of women, and the presence of Martha Karua in that state house means a lot to the women folk. So we are hoping for the best, and we wish Martha Karua the very best of campaigns. And I know she, together with Raila, a sure bet for our win.
All right, amazing. Before I let go of you, perhaps in a minute or thereabout, in terms of the preparedness of the IEBC, should we go there to the ballot? We have, physical register as well as that is, digital, and also on this question of having interested parties, to tally along the IEBC, a plus or danger in the making?
Linda, let me start with the easier one. The component of tallying, even me as a women rep, when I vied in 2017, I was very much interested to know how much vote I've gotten in every polling station. And I think that is one of the very best thing that IBC has ever implemented. To me, it is a security to our country and our vote, that when voting in each polling station is done, then every person's vote is counted and announced there and then. And so when I get this information, tallying only means adding it up for me to know, like, how much vote have I garnered, for example, in the entire county or in this constituency and such like things. So I think that should continue. And by that, I'm saying aspirants have to ensure they know, of course, honestly, not created figures, what they garnered in each of the polling stations where they were voted. Number two, as for the question of going digital, to be honest, personally, and even the whole Azimio team, we don't have a problem with the digital thing. However, look at the context under which we are using these digital things. These things depend on power, they depend on the internet, they depend on the scanning ability of the computer. And what Azimio is saying, there is no harm in having this printed register alongside, so that should there be any reason why the electronic system cannot go on, then somebody is not turned away without voting, so long as their name is actually in that authentic register printed by IBC itself. Because a printed copy is just a soft copy which has been put on paper. If my name can come out of the screen of a computer, as in Migori County in Sona West, Wasimbete Ward, I think if they printed the register, it will still come out the same. My name will not appear in Rift Valley. So somebody cannot use my name and my details to steal votes in Rift Valley. And I'm thinking this way because, one, sometimes our internets fail. Sometimes our powers fail a lot. And that's why we are saying, I want to believe that IBC is cognizant of this and will make sure that they even carry generators to these polling stations. But having a printed register is still not banned, so that in the event, for example, some of those poor farmers we are talking about, some of them are such that even their fingerprints cannot be detected by the computer or the electronic gadgets. What do you do with such old persons? We have persons with disability. Some people registered when their hands were there. Today, maybe they got an accident, they have no more fingers. What do you do with this person? How will you identify them? How will you help them vote? So the printed register should be the most authentic backup for all these electronic things that IBC will equip themselves with. I think that is my perspective. It is not for any malicious use, but just for any eventuality, we need to facilitate all Kenyans to vote.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, Woman Representative, Migori County. We release you and we say asante sana for your submissions. Honorable Wainaina Wa Jungle, is it clear and evident that in as much as we are struggling and trying so hard to go digital, perhaps there's so much that needs to be done, especially when it comes to the electoral system?
Kwanza niseme IEBC wamefanya kazi nzuri na kusema kweli wacha tuwapongeze kwa sababu ukiona ile uchaguzi walifanya 2017 was very credible and it expressed the will of the people. Na saa hii hata zile improvement wamefanya saa hii naona ni sawa kabisa, na sana sana bila wameendelea na kutengeneza ama kuimprove na ile kits. Tena hiyo ni kitu ya kupongeza, lakini nikubaliana na daktari. Hii maneno ya elektroniki inaweza enda mrama kila saa ama saa yoyote ile, na hatugetaka watu waanze kufikiria pengine kuna maneno inafanyika kule chini. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri kuwa na ile printed register. Lakini niseme hata tukiwa vile, mimi nikisimama kiti ya ugavana, mwingine akisimama kiti yake, vile tunakuwa na tally kwa polling station. Polling station ni kusema kwa ile darasa. Ile darasa wakati kuna kura zimehesabiwa, tafadhali ni vizuri unachukua hesabu yako, unaweka pahali, angalia kwingine uko na agents, unaweka pahali. At the end of the day, wakati inakuwa announced kwa kule tallying center, wacha hata wewe uwe na hesabu yako. Lakini hata nafurahia kwa sababu sasa hata vyombo vya habari wameruhusiwa kuwa na their tallying centers and they can carry along. So basically again, mimi naona kama hii itakuwa ni uchaguzi moja ya huru na haki, na ni vizuri kwa sababu ikiwa vile kutakuwa na amani. Kwanza tuwe na imani ile tuwe na amani. Na uchaguzi mwingine hapa naangalia naona kabisa itakuwa very very close. Very very close call. Kwangu mimi Kiambu nikiangalia na nimesema kwanza nikosoe rafiki yangu nomini 001. Nomini 001 independent iko kwa constitution, na inasema hivi, ukiwa independent hauko kwa mlengo yeyote, wewe unasimama kama mgombea huru, na saa hii nasimama kama mgombea huru. Na kule Kiambu niko na marafiki wa Kenya Kwanza, niko na marafiki wa Azimio, wote nawaambia Wajango hakuna ubaguzi, serikali ya Wajango itakuwa ya kila mtu. Na kuna niseme kuna faida. Kuna faida ya kuwa independent kwa sababu mimi saa hii niko mbunge mgombea huru kule Thika. Na niseme mimi nimekuwa na mamlaka zaidi kwa sababu hakuna kiongozi hata mmoja wa chama hanipigi simu wakati kuna bill wanataka ni support. Na nikipiwa na kiongozi wa chama nikumuuliza, sasa wewe kiongozi wa chama, ni nini uko nacho cha watu wa Thika ili hata mimi nikupatie support yangu? Kwa hivyo nikusema hivi, kama uko kwa chama hakuna mtu atakupigia kwa sababu utakuwa whipped, na lazima uende kulingana na mpango wa chama. Ukiwa independent ni lazima upembelezwe, na kupembeleza ni kusema watu wako ni lazima watapata kitu pale. Na niseme Kiambu yule atakuwa rais wa Kenya. Hakuna yeyote anaweza puuza maneno ya Kiambu. Kiambu ni kubwa, Kiambu iko na kura mingi, Kiambu iko na utajiri mwingi. Kwa hivyo mimi pale nimesimama, yule atakuwa rais, atakuwa wangu sana, na nitafanya kazi na yeye kwa manufaa ya watu wa Kiambu.
Shukran. Sijui lini ukageuka ukawa Kongoea Mswahili mheshimiwa. Unajua
nikitamatiza
usitamatishe haraka, subiri naje kupatia wakati wako wa kutamatisha. Labda tumpatie Honorable Sankok muda wa kuzungumzia hili swala la IEBC. Honorable Sankok, I don't know how you would rate the electoral situation so far, and what would be your projections? Would we, we possibly be going to a runoff based on what it is that we see on ground? Would you say that Wajakoya has tuned into the vote of the hustler today based on his style of, campaigns and what it is that he brings to the people? As they would say, he appeals so much so to those ones that would have been considered as the hustlers of today. And so much so, if we are to look at the elections, on the D-Day, do you suppose that there's going to be an outright winner?
Thank you very much.
Honorable Sankok.
It's very clear. Yes.
Yes.
The record of Mother Karua. I don't know if you are getting me.
Yes.
The track that
bit of a hitch.
Presidency.
Honorable Sankok, let's try and fix that. But yes, as we come to a close. Yes, your network, you might need to fix that so we're able to hear you well. But generally, pretty much close.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm saying that we know the track record of Mother Karua. She once offered herself for the presidency, and you know what happened? That both of them and Peter Kenneth garnered votes that were less than those one of Dida, Mwalimu Dida. So we know that she cannot have any clout. The other issue is that we know that Martha Karua walked out of Moi, walked out of Kibaki, and possibly he will walk out of Raila Odinga when they will be in opposition. So her track record is known. Now, coming to the issue of IEBC.
Yeah.
We trust IEBC. We know that they will do a marvelous job. And they have done it in by elections of Musambweni, Juju. So we are quite confident that they will do a marvelous job. The world is moving to a digital environment. So the earlier we accept to be digital, the better. If there will be any failures of network, if there will be any failures of
the network is not so friendly.
Sorry.
You might need some time to fix it. A minute or thereabout.
Yes, let me fix it.
Please, Honorable Wainaina Wa Jungle, as we come to the last laps of this, do you suppose that we're going to have an outright winner, especially when it comes to the question of the presidency? What will be your predictions? And in the event that we have a runoff, what would that mean for the nation? And how do we get it, to that point of equilibrium to get Kenyans the right individual who will take up the mantle as the country's CEO from President Uhuru Kenyatta?
Kwanza niseme hivi, nchi yetu ya Kenya iko bali sana na ile tunasema polls ama vile hatujakuwa na kampuni ambao tunasema tunaweza kurely ama tuseme tunaweza angalia tuseme hizo polls zimetoka na kila mtu anaweza siamini niseme that is one of the weaknesses tuko nayo. Lakini nikisema hivi, wakati unatembea unakuta kuna watu na kuna chama na kuna wale wagombezi wa cha uraisi. Wakati Wajakoya alikuja, hatukuwa tunajua kama Wajakoya anaweza chukua kura kiasi, lakini leo tunajua Wajakoya vile anaendelea, especially kwa wale mayouths, ako na constituency yake, na anaweza nyakua kura kiasi. Na kwa sababu kura ya urais lazima kuwe na 50+1 na minimum ya 24 counties, 25%. Hapo sana sana siwezi sema, lakini najua hapa itakuwa ni mashindano ingine itakuwa very very close, na I cannot rule out personally, I cannot rule out kutakuwa na runoff. Most likely kutakuwa na runoff. Lakini tena niseme wakati wa kupiga kura kama vile tuliona especially in Mount Kenya wakati wa mchujo, ni watu wachache sana walitokea. Ningesema less than 5% ndio walitokea kwa kura ya mchujo, na pengine ni kwa sababu wakati huo wagombezi wa urais hawakuwa wametaja wasaidizi wao ama wagombea wenza. Lakini kwa saa hii unakuta interest inaamka polepole. Unakuta chama kubwa, zile chama mbili kubwa zimechukua wenza wao hapa Mount Kenya region. Na hiyo imechange dynamics. Sasa unakuta watu sasa wanaongea siasa, na wakiongea siasa unaona kweli wako na stake. Na vile uliuliza hiyo swali ya Karua na Rigathi, pengine ningeachia wenye chama watuambie, lakini pengine mimi nikitaka kuuliza wa Kenya, mjiulize tu swali moja. Unataka MCA wako, unataka MP wako, unataka governor wako, unataka president wako. Ujiulize ni wapi, where are we safe, in whose hands are we safe? Kwa mikono gani tutakuwa tuseme aje, sijui kusema kwa Kiswahili.
Kwa Kiswahili kuwa safe
utakuwa ama ni mikono gani nchi itaendelea vizuri, nchi itakuwa na amani, nchi itakuwa na maendeleo. Pengine hiyo ndio swali basic kwa viongozi wote. Lakini hata nikisema hivyo, niseme sana ni vizuri, number 1 angalia track record ya yule mtu unachagua. Number 2 uangalie uaminifu ama ukipenda integrity ya yule mtu. Na number 3 ni mzuri uangalie. Kuna viti mbili kwa usiasa. Kuna kiti ambayo inaangazia usiasa sana. Ukiangalia kiti ya MCA wakienda pale kwa ile county assembly, ukiangalia kiti ya MP ukienda pale kwa kiti ya senator, wale watu wanaingia kwa bunge, hiyo ni kiti ya usiasa na inataka mtu anajua kuteta kwa ajili ya watu wake.
Right.
Lakini kuna viti zingine mbili ambazo ni muhimu sana. Kiti ya ugavana na kiti ya urais. Hiyo ni sana ni kiti ya management, ni kiti ya CEO. Hiyo ni kiti inataka mpangilio mzuri na tukiongea maneno kuna mtu anaweza ongea vizuri, anaweza kuwa na track record ya usiasa, lakini ile kiti ni lazima watu waangalie wajue. Hii kiti ni lazima tunataka utaratibu, ni lazima tunataka experience especially ya economy, kwa sababu saa hii yule rais ama gavana ataingia kwako, kama hajui maneno ya uchumi wako, ujue huyo mtakuwa mnapoteza.
Kweli.
So niseme kwa hizi viti mbili wacha tuangalie sana ni nani atakuwa CEO ama ni gani anaweza angalia mali na rasilimali ya nchi ama ya kaunti yako. Ukifanya hivyo utakuwa na kiongozi bora. Lakini all in all, wacha tuangalie integrity. Nitasema hiyo mara 10 na kitu.
Muhimu.
Wacha tuangalie uaminifu wa kiongozi wako.
Really?
Hii nchi inataka uaminifu. Tukipata hiyo, Wakenya wanajua njia, watajipeleka.
Mheshimiwa Wainaina Wa Jungle wanasema ni salama. Itisha kura dakika nusu.
Haya, nusu dakika niseme. Na ningetaka kuuliza wakaaji wa Kiambu wapendwa, na kwa ile baraka mmenipatia ya kusimama ugavana ni muongoze kwa miaka 5 katika kiti cha ugavana wa Kiambu, niwauliza nikinyenyekea kabisa, niwaitishe na niwaulize kura zenu za ugavana wa Kiambu County. Hapa uko na kiongozi ambaye amenyenyekea, ameogopa Mungu, ambaye ni mwaminifu, ambaye angetaka kuona Kiambu imekaa kama Dubai ama Singapore ama ukipenda Ulaya, kule tunaenda na tunafurahia. Tukifanya hivyo, Kiambu iko na rasilimali ya kutosha, sisi ni werefu, tuko na resources, tuko karibu sana na Nairobi, kwa hivyo tunaweza chukua utajiri wa Nairobi tupeleke Kiambu. Kwa hivyo ukichagua Wainaina Wa Jungle, you are going to get all this in one package. Tuibadilishe Kiambu pamoja, unipatie hizo kura na nikutume utangazie wengine pale mashinani.
Mheshimiwa Wainaina Wa Jungle, kila laheri.
Asante.
Sijui muda gani ulianza kuzungumza Kiswahili, manake hapo awali nilipokuwa na wewe hapa siku moja ulikuwa unazungumza Kiingereza tu, sijui nini kilibadilika, lakini tunashukuru hata hivyo.
Nataka kuwasiliana na wananchi wangu, kwa hivyo sasa lazima nijitahidi.
Muhimu sana. Honorable Sankok.
Yes, as I said, and I think you are hearing now me.
Much better.
Is that the issue of Mother Karua, her track record is well known, that she went for the presidency and she garnered votes when they are combined with Peter Kenneth that were less than Mwalimu Dida. So I don't think this time around she can actually have any impact. As to whether we will go to the second round, I can assure you that it will be an outright first round win. By Kenya Kwanza, we will be able to garner more than, at the moment we are at 69%, but I think we'll go to at 70-something%. So we are confident as Kenya Kwanza that we will be able to win. And last thing is that the only people who have proven that they can fight corruption, which is now the cancer that is ailing our nation, is Kenya Kwanza. Because we have said the first way of fighting corruption is by making independent institutions truly independent, by making Inspector General of Police being independent of the exchequer and being independent of State House, and again making sure that the judiciary fund is operationalized. So we have a track record, we will fight corruption, and it is only in Kenya Kwanza who have come out to show the means of fighting corruption. The rest will depend on the presidential pronouncement that Kemsa Hayes report should be tabled within 2 months, yet 3 years down the lane it is not tabled. So I think we are good to go.
Okay. All right. Well, all the best, Honorable Sankok, as well on behalf of Kenya Kwanza. Tunasema asante sana kwa kuzungumza nasi asubuhi hii ya leo. Ghafla bin vu, mheshimiwa hapa amenifanya niwe kongowea Mswahili, lakini kwa hilo Tunashukuru sana. Asante sana Honorable Wainaina Wa Jungle, Governor candidate of Kiambu County Independent ticket. All the best as you seek to, make sure that you help the people of Kiambu. Above everything, you serve them. Honorable David Sankok, nominated Member of Parliament as well. Asante sana for the great